Welcome to Still Beating by Jennifer Hartmann, the story that politely invites you to a birthday party and then immediately throws you into emotional traffic with no seatbelt. Before we jump back into the story, just a quick moment of honesty. These videos run on caffeine, late nights, and pure chaos, but we love every second of it. If our over-the-top humor and dramatic recaps are your thing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It helps us keep the madness going and tells YouTube we're not just screaming into the void. Stick around, join the fun, and help our tiny corner of the internet grow. Now, let's get back to it. The story opens with Cora Lawson doing what she does best, silently suffering through her sister Mandy's 30th birthday party. This is not a cozy family gathering. This is a loud, alcohol-soaked celebration filled with people who actually enjoy social interaction, which already puts Cora at a disadvantage. She's the quieter, bookish younger sister, armed with sarcasm, observational judgment, and exactly zero desire to be there. Unfortunately, Mandy insists because birthdays and sisters. Enter Dean Asher, Mandy's fiancé, also known as Cora's lifelong nemesis. If irritation were an Olympic sport, these two would have medals. Their history is packed with years of sharp remarks, mutual dislike, and the kind of tension that everyone pretends not to notice but absolutely notices. Dean is confident, teasing, and way too comfortable pushing Cora's buttons. Cora naturally pushes back harder. Their banter is fast, biting, and layered with unresolved something neither of them wants to name. Throughout the party, Cora feels like a misfit orbiting a life she doesn't quite belong to. Mandy is everything Cora isn't. Outgoing, effortlessly likable, and engaged to a man who seems to enjoy antagonizing her younger sister as a hobby. Every interaction reinforces how different they are, and Cora spends most of the night counting down the minutes until she can leave without seeming rude or feral. Then fate decides to help, or ruin everything. Cora realizes her wallet is missing, gone, vanished, stolen, along with her dignity and exit strategy. No cash, no ID, no ride home, and after exhausting her options, she does the unthinkable. She calls Dean, because nothing says rock bottom like asking your enemy/future brother-in-law for help. Dean, annoyingly decent, agrees to drive her home. The car ride is exactly what one would expect. Sarcastic commentary, verbal sparring, and unresolved tension riding shotgun. Their conversations are sharp but familiar, revealing a complicated past beneath the insults. There's a rhythm to their arguing, one that suggests history rather than hatred. Neither is willing to acknowledge it, of course, so they keep sniping instead. The night feels off. There's an undercurrent of unease, a sense that something is about to snap. And it does. On the drive home, flashing lights appear. Before either of them can process what's happening, violence erupts. A stranger smashes the car window. Chaos replaces conversation. Cora is dragged from the vehicle. Dean is knocked unconscious. The moment is fast, brutal, and terrifyingly efficient. And just like that, the story leaves behind petty arguments and awkward family dynamics and plunges straight into horror. One minute it's birthday cake and sarcasm. The next, everything familiar is ripped away because in this story, the universe does not believe in easing into trauma. When Cora wakes up, the universe has officially decided to stop pretending this is a romance-adjacent story. She's not in a hospital. She's not rescued. She's not even mildly okay. She's chained in a basement. Her wrists locked behind her back, panic arriving before her thoughts fully catch up. The air is cold. The room is dark, and every horror movie instinct she has starts screaming at once. Across the room, Dean is there, also chained, also very much not enjoying this development. This is the moment where denial packs its bags and reality kicks the door down. They aren't lost. They aren't being held temporarily. They are captives, prisoners, toys, essentially, for someone who clearly skipped every how to be a functional human lesson available. The basement is bare, grimy, and intentionally designed to erase comfort. The chains are real. The situation is worse. Naturally, Cora and Dean respond the only way they know how, by arguing. It's almost impressive. Kidnapped, shackled, terrified, and still finding the energy to bicker. Their old animosity doesn't vanish just because the stakes have skyrocketed. If anything, it becomes a coping mechanism. Sarcasm becomes armor, anger becomes distraction. It's easier to snap at each other than to fully process the fact that they may never leave this room alive. But something has shifted. Dean's concern for Cora is immediate and unmistakable. He checks her injuries, talks to her constantly, grounds her when panic starts to spiral. The man who once thrived on irritating her is now laser-focused on keeping her calm, awake, and breathing. Cora notices, she just doesn't comment on it. Survival doesn't leave room for emotional unpacking. Then their captor appears. Earl doesn't rush. He takes his time because, of course he does. He introduces himself with the casual confidence of someone who enjoys being feared. He assigns them roles like, this is a 6-stage play. Cora is his kitten. Dean is the dog. The message is clear and immediate. Cora is the object. Dean is disposable. The threat of sexual violence hangs in the air constantly. It doesn't need to be spoken every moment. It's implied in Earl's tone, his smiles, his patience. Dean's inability to stop it is its own form of torture. Cora's fear becomes a physical thing, heavy and suffocating even when Earl isn't in the room. Yet in the middle of all this, something unexpected happens. Dean talks. He sings quietly to Cora when the nights stretch too long. He tells her stories. He reminds her of the outside world. Cora clings to those moments, storing them away like oxygen. They are still enemies, technically, still sharp, still stubborn. But the lines are starting to blur, because when survival is the goal, resentment becomes a luxury they can no longer afford. And this basement, it's only getting started. Earl thrives on escalation. He doesn't just want obedience, he wants damage. Psychological first, because that lasts longer. He keeps up the pet names like they're cute quirks instead of weapons. Kitten, dog. He pits Cora and Dean against each other, reminding Dean that he exists solely to watch and fail, and reminding Cora that no one is coming. Every visit tightens the pressure, like he's testing how far he can push before something breaks. And then something does. The threat that's been looming becomes real. Earl's sadism reaches its peak when he forces Dean, at gunpoint, to rape Cora. There is no control, no choice, no escape. It is violent, devastating, and shattering in a way that rewires everything for both of them. For Cora, it is another violation layered onto an already unbearable nightmare. For Dean, it is a betrayal of his own body, his morals, and the woman he's been trying desperately to protect. Afterward, the basement feels different. Heavier, quieter. Shame takes over where fear once lived. Dean can barely look at Cora. Cora retreats inward, guilt and self-loathing clawing at her from every angle. They stop talking for a while, not because they want to, but because words feel dangerous. Everything hurts. Silence becomes safer than saying the wrong thing and making it worse. But trauma doesn't allow clean breaks. Eventually, they find their way back to each other in fragments. A word here, a glance there, an apology that feels too small but still matters. Survival demands cooperation, and slowly, painfully, they reconnect. Not as enemies, not even as lovers, but as two people shattered by the same act. They start talking again. Really talking. Confessions spill out in the dark. Dean admits that he had feelings for Cora long before Mandy was ever part of the picture. Feelings he buried, ignored, and replaced with cruelty because it was easier than wanting something he couldn't have. Cora, in turn, reveals her own secrets, her insecurities, her long-standing sense of being second best, her complicated mix of resentment and longing. The forced intimacy strips them bare. There's no space for masks, no room for pride. What's left is raw, aching honesty. They play small games to pass the time, ask questions, share memories, hold on to rituals like shared food and whispered conversations. These moments don't erase the horror, but they create pockets of humanity inside it. Something dangerous begins to form. Hope. Not the naive kind that expects rescue any minute now, but the quieter, more terrifying version. The kind that imagines a future. The kind that makes loss hurt more if it comes. And just when that hope starts to feel possible, the universe reminds them exactly where they are. Because Earl is still in control, and he is far from finished. At some point, surviving quietly stops being enough. Because once the human brain gets even a microscopic taste of possibility, it refuses to shut up about it. And that's exactly what happens when Dean manages the impossible. He loosens Cora's cuffs using a broken piece of Earl's belt. Not a key, not a master plan, just desperation, patience, and sheer refusal to die quietly. Cora is free. For the first time since the abduction, she can move without chains biting into her wrists. The plan is simple because complicated plans die fast in basements. She runs. She gets help. She comes back with the cavalry. Easy. Foolproof. What could possibly go wrong? Everything? Cora makes it out. She gets close. So close it almost feels cruel, and then Earl catches her because of course he does. Hope, it turns out, is Earl's favorite thing to punish. What follows is brutal. There is violence. There is blood. There is punishment designed not just to hurt, but to teach. Earl doesn't just want obedience. He wants despair. He drags Cora back to the basement, broken, battered, and drowning in guilt for daring to believe escape was possible. Dean is forced to witness the aftermath, powerless once again, and the weight of that failure crushes him. This is worse than before. Cora spirals, physically injured, emotionally shattered. She blames herself for everything. For trying, for failing, for making things worse. Trauma is efficient like that. It convinces victims they are responsible for their own suffering. Dean isn't doing much better. Guilt eats at him relentlessly. He gave her hope. He watched it be destroyed, and now he's terrified that next time there won't be enough of her left to try again. But here's the inconvenient thing about these two. They don't quit. And somewhere in the middle of the despair, a quiet realization settles in. Escape is possible. They've proven that, which means this nightmare has an expiration date. Earl just doesn't know it yet. Eventually, monsters make mistakes. Earl's mistake is underestimating how far a human can be pushed before something inside them snaps permanently. When the final confrontation comes, it isn't clean, cinematic, or heroic in the traditional sense. It's brutal, messy, animalistic. Dean kills Earl with his bare hands, driven not by rage alone, but by sheer survival instinct. There is no victory speech, no sense of triumph, just the end of one nightmare and the immediate beginning of another. Because freedom doesn't feel like freedom right away. Cora and Dean stumble into daylight injured, disoriented, and fundamentally changed. Sirens, paramedics, shouting voices, it's all too loud, too fast, too unreal. Rescue is chaos, relief mixes with shock. Their bodies are saved, but their minds are still very much in that basement. And here's the part no one prepares them for. Survival does not come with instructions. Back in the real world, everything feels wrong. Families are relieved, but broken. Mandy is devastated, not just by what happened, but by what it means. The truth detonates her life, her engagement, and her understanding of the people closest to her. Guilt settles heavily on Cora's shoulders because apparently surviving trauma isn't complicated enough without emotional collateral damage. Cora and Dean are pulled toward each other like gravity. Their bond, forged in horror, doesn't magically disappear now that the threat is gone. But it's messy, loaded, full of shame, secrecy, and questions no one wants to ask out loud. They try to do the right thing, distance, therapy, dating other people, avoidance. None of it works. Because trauma does not respect social boundaries. Eventually, Dean makes the decision no one wants but everyone needs. He leaves town. New job, new start. Physical distance as a form of damage control. It devastates Cora, but it also forces both of them to confront themselves as individuals, not just survivors bound together by shared pain. Time passes, healing crawls instead of sprints. Cora repairs her relationship with Mandy piece by painful piece. Dean builds a life that functions, even if it still aches. They grow, separately, quietly, imperfectly. And then, because this story does believe in timing, life brings them back together. They meet again, older, steadier, and finally capable of choosing each other without drowning in guilt. What they build now is different, healthier, intentional. Their love is no longer just a reaction to trauma, but a decision rooted in healing and honesty. Years later, they have a life, a family, a future that once felt impossible. The ocean, once tied to fear, becomes a symbol of peace. Not because the past disappeared, but because it no longer controls them. Still, beating doesn't pretend trauma vanishes, it just proves something quieter and far more stubborn. Hearts keep going, even after everything. So, that was Still Beating by Jennifer Hartmann. If you came here expecting a cute enemies to lovers story with witty banter and maybe a kiss in the rain, congratulations. You were emotionally ambushed. Instead, you got kidnapping, psychological torture, moral devastation, and a love story forged in the worst possible conditions imaginable. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and emotionally prepare yourself before picking up another dark romance that absolutely did not come to play nice. Until next time, protect your wallet, don't get into cars with your sister's fiancé. See you in the next recap.